Hello everyone, this is CJNovo992 and today we're back from the brand new video, and as you can see we are once again repping the old chef kit. Hopefully I'm cooking up a storm and hopefully that brings us some free points as we're here for something a bit more than the usual distraction from the domestic frustrations. That's sort of what European footballs became recently, especially if we've started to progressively get worse. As a football team we've needed that distraction, but we actually need to take the blinders off if we're here again for something a bit more important. As the Europa League starting to fall into place, the group is starting to get there. It might be damn early, but this matchup could just be a massive indication on whether or not two things. One, we are playing European football after the group stages end, and two, more importantly, if we're going to get some of that European money, which clearly we need. And I think with that intro, I think we're just going to dive right into this. And if at any point during this video or any time watching the channel, if you don't mind hitting that like button, that'd be greatly appreciated. If you're enjoying the content and if you want to stick around, make sure you be hitting that subscription button to help find the latest channels. Our ultimate goal for this season is 70k. That was the pipe dream, but now we're almost chopped doing 65 already. It's been incredible, so thank you all for taking your time out your day to listen to this guy and discuss some football with me. And I think with that, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it then, shall we? And let's start off with the old opposition and speak about Olympiacos, the Greek giants themselves, who at my current time of recording sit fourth in the Greek league, and more importantly regarding us, they sit 12th in the Europa League, the exact same amount of points as us, only sitting behind us by one place due to a single goal difference. That's what separates the sides again, and that's why this game is so damn important. Early or not in terms of Europa League, when you're up against sides that's next to you, this 3 points could be absolutely vital. And again, we need more than just a single goal to separate us if we want to start building that cheeky momentum. And I think no matter what happens in the next 24 hours, that goal difference won't just be one much longer. But before we go down that Europa League road, let's pull it back and check on them domestically just to see how they're performing overall rather than just a couple games here or there. In Europe, what they good at, how they been performing, how they looking so far this season. Well, again, they're sitting fourth in the All League, which would probably be a surprise to a lot of people because again, you hear the names like the Olympiacos, the Panathinaikoses, and when we were growing up, those were the teams, you know what I mean? They were really hard teams, they were winning all the time, so we were expecting them to be 1 and 2 trading punches non-stop, left, right and centre. But it's not been quite that case so far, as again they are sitting fourth, and that is a surprise because you think of how they ended last season off, you know what I mean, getting to the Conference League final. Say what you want about the competition, but they beat the likes of Aston Villa to get there. They were playing Fiorentina in the final, they were heavily underdogs in that, but they managed to come away by winning a European trophy. And then they started this season off keeping a lot of their core players, bringing in some interesting pieces we'll speak about later on in the video, and they started off really well. Through their first opening 4 matches of the season, they had 3 wins and a cheeky draw to boot, which again is not too bad, especially when you're starting to throw in some European rotations. But we're not quite there just yet, because the next game in terms of league football saw them in a top of the table clash, if you will, versus Aris, and Aris went ahead and won 2-1. Now Olympiacos was away from home, they aren't exactly the greatest at travelling, their home form is certainly a hell of a lot better, but at the same time as they'll be bitterly disappointed as they created numerous clear goal scoring opportunities in that match. They were just undone by shocking defensive and just given goals away. By God, that sounds familiar. But that slap in the face was no more than a real slap in the face if you look at it that way, because their next game they responded, got a very strong win, and then over the next couple of matches again they remained undefeated through their next 3 with a couple draws, one of them being versus Panathinaikos, who we've already mentioned, the other one being Olympiacos, who again was a cheeky 2-2. And yes, I said that name very fast because I'm a wee bit nervous on it, but that is the tail of their tape up to that point. Again, back on winning run, looking undefeated, then came another game and bang, just like that, they were beaten once again, this time versus a side they really shouldn't have been getting beaten off, as they travelled again away from home and lost 1-0 in the matchup in which they created numerous clear-cut opportunities again. But guess what? They were undone by some madness at the old back. But didn't just take my word for it. In that game they had over 22 shots in the old match, you know what I mean? They were salt and pepper and they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, which is a very encouraging thing to see from a Rangers fan. And if I just left it like that, you hear defensively a bit all over the place, erratic going forward with real inconsistency. This sounds good, this sounds promising. Well, Unfortunately, I do have to tell you a wee bit of the truth, because the most recent 1-0 loss, we spoke about the heavily rotated certain key players because they have got a full eye and full focus in terms of European football, and unfortunately that was one of the cases. Now again, maybe their main striker did eventually come onto the game, and they did bring on more of their attacking players and more established players in the second half to try and really come back after being 1-0 down behind, but again, that a lot of the mistakes were made, big chances that were created early in the game fell to backups, B players if you will, as they had rotated them out from the midweek's European performance. So if their main focus is on the European stage over the last couple of weeks, how have they actually been performing? Well, again, they sit one place below us due to a single goal is the difference, in their story in Europe's been a familiar one to us as well, not only in terms of the form, as you can imagine, but a couple of the teams that we've played, as well as they started their Europa League campaign off with a game versus Lyon. Now, unfortunately, I do have to mention Lyon again after what they've done to us at Ibrox, but to keep it blunt and keep it on maybe the shorter side rather than going into too much detail, Olympiacos performed a hell of a lot better than us versus Lyon. They created opportunities, they frustrated Lyon, and for large parts of the game, they were truly in. And amongst it, before that Lyon attack just overcame them, you know what I mean? You know there's a hell of a lot of talent in there, and it was two second half goals, one in the 65th minute and another one in the 70th that killed this game off. And after going down 2-0, it was sort of, well, we're beat here, and then Lyon started to sprinkle in a lot more shots than what the game was actually contested, and again Olympiacos were right in it. So you could argue it was a spirited performance before falling to the ridiculous talent of the Lyon side, but it did leave them in a very interesting point, because they then needed to respond, and what came was a Portuguese side by the name of Braga that we are obviously very familiar with, that can be very dangerous. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Olympiacos scudded them 3-0, with Kobe being the main difference maker again, scoring 2 goals in the game. He's the one that scores all the goals. He's going to be the main difference man tomorrow, and he really started his European magic where he left it last season, because he was the one that scored the goal in the Conference League final. Now he's back scoring there, and again they put Braga to the sword with that scoreline of 3-0, which saw them travel to a familiar place to us, to Malmo next, as they went over to Sweden in their next matchup after having a great win at home versus Braga. And maybe they didn't get the result that we did in terms of the 2-0 versus Braga, the 2-0 going on 6. They still absolutely frustrated Malmo to the bone, put them to the sword, and created numerous opportunities to win the game, where again Cabby again was the main difference maker as they put the ball in the back of net with the goal that won the actual match. But I look at their 2 games, and in fact I look at the Lyon game as well. They've clearly got a different style of play than maybe what we've faced recently in Europe, especially versus the Lyon, because normally in Europe we speak about teams, oh, they love the ball, it's the 4-2-3-1, they like to recycle it, they like to hold the body. This isn't this Olympiacos side at all, because in each game that they've played in European football, they've just let the opposition have it. You know what I mean? They let Braga have the ball. Braga had over 58% of the football. They got scanted 3-0. Same versus Malmo. They went to Sweden. They said, you can pass the ball, you can have fun if you want. We'll sit in, we'll use our pace out wide, we'll use our danger man's movement up front, and we'll sting you on the counter attack. As Malmo had over 61% of the ball, and Olympiacos just sat in, frustrated, countered, paced, and put them to the sword. So I think the blueprint is already out there for everyone wondering what type of game this is. Are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? It's a familiar tale and a familiar sting, if you actually will, as this team will be a little bit more in the box before exploding out. They will use their paces. That's their biggest threat. If you're wondering how it's going to go tomorrow, watch the pace in transition, watch the way they get out there, and they'll just sit back and allow us to touch the ball as many times as we want, because it's irrelevant to them. All that matters to them is when they get the ball, it's one pass into the 10, it's played out wide, and the ball's coming in to their centre forward, who scores goals for fun. And that's sort of the story of Olympiacos. That's the story of them so far this season. All that's left to do is pick out a couple key individual matchups I think is going to be massive in this game if we are going to be very successful, and the players that we need to limit and we need to stop. And a guy it's going to be a mention right away is the man, we've probably butchered his name, but I've copied it officially from the official pronunciation and what's been said in English, and that is again Kobe, who is scoring goals now. He's back doing it in European football. He scored in a European final. He is a danger man. He has 3 goals in 3 matches so far in the Europa League. He was rotated in the most recent loss, and that as well to keep him fit for these types of matches. And I imagine he will be the main attacking threat. And what type of player is he? Is he a big bruiser? Is he this? Is he that? He's actually a wee bit of a mixture because his pace and his movement's really good. If you look at a lot of his goals, the best way I can say it, and I mean it the nicest way possible, I'm not being disrespectful, is he scores a lot of ugly goals. Do you know what I mean? See when the ball's bouncing about and it's just the centre forward, like a Cholak, for instance, the ball's just bouncing about and he just puts the ball in the back. One hit bang. You're like, how am I behind? One hit bang. There, it's falling about the place. The cross breaks down. It hits off a header, hits off somebody's arse falls. Who's there to sniff out and put it in the back of net? It's Kabe. And that's been this tail of the tape for him for far too long. Very underrated with his movement and goal striker instincts. And with a lot of the frustration we've had about Dessers standing on his heels, no reacting, no being sharp in front of goals. Well, you've got a on the toes striker, if you will, and he's going to be a main threat. And I imagine if it's Suter or Balogun or even Nana at centre half, it's going to be one of them's main jobs, going to keep an eye on him because he just moves all day and he'll be a pain in the jacksy, I can imagine. But I can imagine a lot of people's maybe heard of him or saw before because again he scored a lot of big goals for him, so it's not really breaking much ground, but you've got to mention him, you know what I mean? It's like a Lennon Miller for Motherwell. You've got to mention the big players and the best players or best performing players if you actually will. But there's another player I want to mention at the number 10 spot that I've been watching their games. I sit back and say, by God, he just pulls every single string. And that's going to be the Portuguese midfielder Chiquinho, who sits at the number 10 spot. And I think he's no flashy or anything. He's no an eye-popping player, but if you actually watch the highlights and you track everything back and you look at every goal and you look at the way he plays, everything starts for him. He sets the tone and everything. He drifts from the 6 maybe to the 10 spot. He gets on the ball, he plays out, and a lot of the counter-attacks that they've done versus Malmo, they've done versus Braga, you watch it, it gets punched into him, he's turning in on a 6-pins and then just playing it out to the wing position, or he's playing it in behind for the striker to run in behind. He's a player that maybe I know a lot of people actually talk about ahead of this game, but watch him in the middle of the park, watch how he gets on the ball. And again, sorry to bring up something that's pretty familiar, but imagine it'll be Connor Barron's job just to sit on him as well, just a wee bit further back, and that'll be one as everything just sort of gets punched into him, then he turns and then it's out wide, then it turns, then it's in behind. He's certainly a very talented player, if not very underappreciated, as I think most people talk about. It's going to be skipper versus skipper. And we'll speak about Tavernier at another time, as obviously Olympiacos, his captain, is a left winger. Now he is right-footed and he hasn't been playing a lot in the Europa League. In fact, I think he's only played around about 14 minutes, or averages 14 minutes in that. So he's not been playing it a lot, and if I'm honest, he's not been great this season either. There's a hell of a lot of similarities when you start to look at it between Rangers and Olympiacos. How iffy they are at the back, the chances they miss going forward, both skippers not being at the top in their actual game. But when he's on it, he's a very, very talented player. He has only scored once in 10 games this season, but again, if he is starting up against Tavernier, I imagine he'll fancy his chances there. But again, the thing to look out for is he is right-footed on the left, so it'll be constantly cutting back, it'll be constantly cutting inside, it'll be trying to have shots, doing wee curlers or getting in the ended crosses from the other side. He is a bit of a danger, but again, I didn't want to mention him right off the top because he's not exactly been great so far this season. I do have one other player that I do want to mention, by the way, and it's the big centre-half on loan from Nottingham Forest. And I'm just calling him the big centre-half because when you see him, you know exactly who I'm talking about, right? He's a big sort of shithouse centre-half that stands at 6'4". You'll see him right away. He's left-footed, so he'll be at the left centre-back spot. And I think if we do play Dessers, which I think we all know we actually will, see this long, aimless ball stuff we've been doing, please, please, please say someone's been looking into it, because this guy is 6'4". He's a bully in the air. He can't run much, if I'm being brutally honest with you. And if we're just pumping long balls up to him, he's going to eat that all damn day. You know what I mean? He got a big money move to the Premier League. He's played for the likes of Porto. He's made money because up there, he's dominant. Up there, he's a threat. And again, that goes from set pieces both defensively and unfortunately attacking wise. I imagine everyone will get swung in to the big laddie at the centre-back spot. But again, if you get him running, he's a bit cumbersome. He's maybe got a bit of the proper hair, if you want to actually say it that way. He is known for a wee cheeky pullback. So, aye, maybe a movement of a striker. Maybe Dessers will turn it on if he avoids getting into the clinch with him, if you actually will. If you avoid putting your back in him. If you want to turn him and run him and try and get him side to side, pull back all damn day. But again, that'll be a big matchup, because if we play the way we normally play, boys going to eat Dessers and eat our attacks for supper. But if we get him running, we might have a chance. And I think with underlining David Carmo's threats, both good and the bad in this game, that's sort of it for the Olympiacos preview. That's my thoughts and opinions on them, their season so far, the couple key matchups and main points and players we are going to limit. But aye, they're a very good side that's full focused on European football. They've already won a European trophy in the last year and are putting their main focus to make sure they get a win. They're very good at home as well. We've never won in Greece, by the way, we're travelling over there, so it's certainly setting up to be a very interesting matchup. But with that being said, that's reached the end of the Olympiacos side. Let's get to the old Ranger side. Now, before we do actually get into the proper Ranger side of the video, I have seen a couple comments recently that's been sort of propping up saying the opposition's got more time than the Ranger side in the preview videos and they're fed up. They just want to know about Rangers. They don't care about the opposition. And I always thought these preview videos didn't always get as much views, obviously, as the recaps, but it's about finding out about the opposition, how they're playing, just to give you a wee bit of information on what the game is going to be like, what we're actually up against, and then we go ahead and talk about the Rangers end, which again is usually a couple minutes shorter if you look at it, maybe a minute or two shorter than the opposition. But I thought it's always better to do that rather than me sitting here repeating the exact same stuff every 3 days, because not only do we speak about Rangers on obviously every single preview video, but we speak about it every day of our lives, and obviously 25-30 minutes in the recaps are always from the Rangers side. So I've always tried to do the preview video this way, by looking at the opposition first, then giving you a wee update on the Rangers thing, breaking down anything latest and giving you my opinions sort of brief as I can be, rather than going through the exact same cycle every 3 days of how the season's gone, where we are in the league, what's our league form, because again, we're Rangers fans, we sort of know that already. But I have seen a couple comments recently, so if you are still watching today's video, are you still enjoying the preview videos the way we're doing it, or would you rather we cut the opposition side down and just give you the story of Rangers every 3 days, just updating you with the same stuff? Let me know down there in the old comment section below, because I do try and keep it as fresh as possible, so I'm not boring you or taking your time for granted. I try not to go over the exact same stuff all the time, that's why I do the previews this way. But you can let me know in the comment section below, any feedback would be greatly appreciated. And whilst you do that, ironically, it is now time for me to go over some familiar ground and discuss something I've discussed a hell of a lot, not only in terms of these preview videos, but the recaps. Quite ironic how that's actually happened, but I'll try and keep it as snappy as possible. And here is your soundbite. James Henry Tavernier cannot and should not start this game. And now, before people either agree or disagree with that sentiment, I do want to explain that I'm taking all my personal preferences off the actual table. You know what I mean? Whether you like him, you appreciate him, or you've been frustrated by him, or you didn't think he's been a great captain, whatever you feel about Tavernier, we're putting it all off the table right now. We are just looking at him from a player from August to this right here, and he should not be starting games of football. Why? Because he is not performing right now. He is not doing well enough on the park to deserve a starting spot in the Rangers team. And I feel like not only have we talked about this a lot, and there does need to be a change, or it does need to be a change, or it does need to be a change now. We're now at the point, ladies and gentlemen, if it doesn't happen now, when is it going to happen? Because there was a moment versus Motherwell, I think most people will remember it from the game of football, it was around about the 50th minute, when Tavernier tried to hit a cross and it bounced probably at the corner flag. The boos for the stadium from our own fans, Clements' reaction to it, but it was more importantly Tavernier's reaction. If you go back and you look at it, because he's went like that, he's put his head in his hands, he's turned away, and he's just slowly jogged back. And I think it was at that moment it's finally hit Tavernier that unfortunately he's not that guy anymore for this club. Because again, pulling the personal preferences back on the old table and back in to this argument, I actually really like Tavernier and I really appreciate everything this man's done for his club. I know that's a bit of a controversial thing to say these days, but what he's had to deal with and the pressure he's been under in the spotlight, I can't imagine the mental strength that he's had today to carry that armband through the tough times that he's seen, the bad players, the bad signings, the bad teams, the bad managers he's had to play with. Right? I really do appreciate this laddie, but Father Time is undefeated, and he's undefeated in this fight right here, and Tavernier simply doesn't deserve to be starting games of football. And I really think you could get an actual positive reaction from the players and an actual response for the guys that aren't in the 11 every week, that are sitting there, that's busting their arse at training, that are trying to break it through. You could get a real reaction if you, in a massive European game, take your captain who is not performing out and playing someone who's been shown just recently, he can play better in that position. And what a statement that is to every single player, not only in the 11, the 18, the youth department, every single building and office in Ibrox, that if you're not doing your job, you will be replaced, because we will not, again, be rewarding failure any longer. And it goes back to a saying that we've maybe heard far, far too many times in our life, but it's really coming true right now. There is no player bigger than the club. We've had bigger and better players, if you will, dropped and moved on, pushed out a starting 11s than James Henry Tavernier, if you will. But right now, if you sit back and you look at it from the optics that we're talking about and the way that he is getting continually played despite not performing and earning the actual jersey, it looks like we're actually putting the player above the club. And I didn't understand why we're actually doing that. And that's when questions need to be asked of Clement. That's when he needs to do it. Now, people say, but James Henry Tavernier just done an interview recently where he said thought he was playing well this season. And he's going to say that because, again, it does take a lot of mental strength to become a professional player and keep up those standards. You want to keep being positive. You want to keep pushing your way. And, again, at the same time, as players are often the last people to realise that they aren't good enough anymore. That's when you need a strong manager to say, you know what, it's no working anymore. Let me take you at the firing line. Let me take you at the spotlight. Let me take this clear negative that's affecting this club both on and off the park right now, and let me sit you right here. Because again, even if you've done that, if you put Tavernier on the old bench, he is still an impactful weapon to eventually have. You know what I mean? If you're drawing a game last 15, 20, chuck him in there, he can start doing that. He just needs to take out the spotlight for his own good right now. And ironically, the guy that can do it can take Tavernier out for his own good as well, and that is Clement. And that's how I really feel. That's what I want to see going out. It's not a saying anymore, it's not a discussion point, it's not an argument. He does not deserve to play anymore. So surely we start putting the club actual first. And that needs to be an injection. That's how you get a response for the 18. That's how you pick players up who aren't performing in sleepwalking games. Because if they start feeling like, holy crap, Tavernier's getting dropped, holy crap, this is getting dropped, I better start bucking up my ideas or I'm gone. Because there's too many sleepwalking through games knowing, well, if he's getting played every week, so am I. Now again, I've felt this way for a couple months now and that, but at the same time, it's never been more obvious to everyone who watches Rangers game that the time has came. You know what I mean? Clement can't lie to us anymore and tell us this in press conference. We can't get tricked by social media posts and all this crap. We saw it with our very own eyes in that semi-final versus Motherwell. The second Tavernier and Dessers came off the park, we as a team got better. The right hand side got stronger. It shut down the entire side and we went on to play a hell of a lot better with them off the park than on it. They can't lie anymore. They can't talk a lot of nonsense. It's obvious to everyone. So again, that is why I feel it's time now. It's time to inject something, and it's time to show us, the fans, Clement, you can be the guy. You've tried your best to give him opportunities. I get it. Maybe you've stuck by him, but at the same time, as no player is bigger than the club, start putting the club first. That is what the fans want to see. And I tell you, if he starts doing that, maybe slowly but surely, this lack of game plan, lack of tempo, the sleepwalking through games will start to disappear, and maybe he'll have a future at this club. Maybe he'll be able to turn it around. But it starts with making big decisions and putting your balls on the line. And it starts for me tomorrow. It must happen, because what's the alternative, right? And stay with me here, right? Because I get it. Playing Tavernier and Dessers every week. They're eventually going to score an assist, right? Just say Tavernier and Dessers both score tomorrow with 1-2-0. And everyone's like, aha, see, yous all wanted them bombed out. See this? And Clement's maybe cheeky in a prem. Did you say he was finished or anything? All that crap. Right, but what's it worth to us? You know what I mean? A broken clock is right twice a day. Right, they finally scored a game. They finally won us a game. But what about the ones they helped lose us? Or for the months and months kicking the can down the road to wait for this gotcha moment. It's just silly, childish stuff. Let's stop the bleeding. Let's stop the dance. That is what I want to see going forward for this football club. And it all starts tomorrow. Nana or Sterling at right back tomorrow. And I'll start to say, you know what? Maybe he has got something about him. But if it's Tavernier, what I'm expecting, it's going to be more of the exact same, because all he's waiting for is a childish gotcha moment. And I didn't need that for a Rangers manager. What I need is a leader and a guy that's big enough to make big decisions. Now, the same obviously goes for Dessers, who's been diabolical for the last couple months, but because Danilo's not registered and he doesn't seem to trust Igaman yet, who's still learning his craft as a younger player, I'm expecting to see Dessers start the line tomorrow. But again, I'll support him when he goes over that while and hope he goes ahead and scores, but it's no the end-all be-all for everyone. When Danilo does get registered, when Igaman does get more opportunities, that should have been happening over the last couple of months, so he's at a much better place to play in this game. But we've not done that either. Then we can start making the changes. But I'll be fine with Dessers more because, again, there is very little alternatives that we can actually go ahead and play. But that's my big thoughts. That's my big feelings going into this game of fit. But I don't know if I've sounded absolutely mental here and people say I've went way over the top, but I just feel like now we've seen it and the change. It needs to happen now. What about you? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down there in the old comment section below. I'd really appreciate some feedback on the preview videos and how you're feeling about the situation. Can Clement turn this around? For me, he can. But he needs to actually help himself, help the team, and even help Tav by taking him out the spotlight the more. Because again, a lot of that comes down wing play. That is Tavernier's weakness in this game. Play Sterling. Play Nana, give us a bit of defensive stability and strengthen our weakest area, which is ironically their strongest area attack. You know what I mean? It might sound crazy, but it might just work. But aye, that's the way it goes, ladies and gentlemen. That's my thoughts and opinions ahead of this game of fit. But I think it's going to be very tight. Again, the omens are, you're number one in Greece. They're playing well, especially at home. I get it and everything like that. But as always, I'm going to predict my team to come ahead and win this game. And I know it's a bit of a cop-out recently, but it's been working very well. I told you in the Motherwell video it was going to finish 2-1 no matter what. I wasn't sure what team I actually was going to. And I see a cheeky 2-1 happening again. There's just both teams to score in this game. Sounds good because defensively they can be erratic. Defensively we can be erratic. Both of our finishers, both of our team finishing wise can be very erratic. So it should be a hell of a game tomorrow, put it that way. But I'll back us to finally break our Greek omen and hopefully come ahead and win this game of football with possibly Cherny being the main difference maker in the game again. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'd love to know your opinions down there in the comment section below. Until tomorrow night, again, it'll be extremely late because it is a European game. So whenever I see you, hopefully it's with a smile on all our faces. But until then, I've been CJ92. Thank you so much for watching. All the best and bye-bye.